श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ओम ओम
ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां
प्रतिबोधितां
भगवता
भगवता
नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन
व्यासेन
ग्रथितां
ग्रथितां
पुराणमुनिना
पुराणमुनिना
मध्ये
मध्ये
महाभारतम्
महाभारतम्
अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं
अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम्
भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीम्
अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम्
अम्ब
अम्ब
त्वामनुसन्दधामि
त्वामनुसन्दधामि
भगवद्गीते
भगवद्गीते
भवद्वेषिणीम्
भवद्वेषिणीम्
नमस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे
व्यासविशालबुद्धे
पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र
पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन
येन त्वया भारतैलपूर्णप्रज्वालितो
तैलपूर्णप्रज्वालितो
ज्ञानमयः
ज्ञानमयः
प्रदीपः
प्रदीपः
प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये
स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये
ज्ञानमुद्राय
ज्ञानमुद्राय
कृष्णाय
कृष्णाय
गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोमनीषदो गावो
गावो
दूता गोपालनन्दन
गोपालनन्दनः
पार्थो
पार्थो
वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता
भोक्ता
दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्
महत्
वासुदेवसुतं
तं
देवं
देवं
कंसचाणूरमर्दनम्
कंसचाणूरमर्दनम्
देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्।
भीष्म
द्रोणजटा
धृतजला गान्धार
गान्धारनीलोत्पला
नरनीलोत्पला
शल्यग्राहवती
शल्यग्राहवती वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला
वेलाकुला
अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा
अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा
दुर्योधनावर्तिनी
दुर्योधनावर्तिनी
सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः
यवचः
सरोजममलं
सरोजममलं
गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम्
गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम्
नानाख्यानककेसरं
नानाख्यानककेसरं
हरिकथा
हरिकथं
सम्बोधनाबोधितम्
बोधनाबोधितम्
लोके
लोके
सज्जन
सज्जन
षट्पदैरः
षट्पदैर्हरः
पेपीयमानं
पीयमानं
मुदा
मुदा
भूयात्
भूयात् भारत
भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसनीम् श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घ्यते गिरिं यत्कृपातम् अहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः
वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः
स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैः स्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः
वेदैस्ताङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषददैः
गायन्ति यं
गायन्ति यं
सामगाः
सामगाः
ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन
नावस्थितगतेन
मनसा
मनसा
पश्यन्ति यं
पश्यन्ति यं
योगिनो
योगिनो
यस्यान्तं
यस्यान्तं
न
न
विदुः
विदुर्सुरासुरगणः
देवाय तस्मै
तस्मै
नमः।
नमः. Let us start with verse number 1 of chapter 8. Bodhi Parthada, you want to recite?
Yeah, no, which one? See,
Chapter 8.
we attended last on 20th August, parts 1 to 6 of chapter 8. After that, you had one session on 29th October, and you covered 7 to 10.
Correct.
which we are not there. And there
That's
will be
okay.
no other program in between.
Correct. So let's start with chapter 1, verse number 1. We'll go on from there.
Acha, 1 of chapter 8.
Correct.
Oh.
Sir, but please promise we will go, we'll do at least verse 11 and maybe 11, verse 12 before we stop today.
It is 11. It is 11.
We have to have some, I don't want it to be stopped there.
Atha akshara brahma yogaha Arjuna uvacha kim tad brahma kim dhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adhidevam kim uchyate adhiyagyam katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham Yosi
Tatmavihi.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Carry on, Raghuji.
Okay.
Recording, please.
Recording चालू है शायद.
Thank you. Sorry to disturb.
Raghuji, you went into mute. You went into mute. Unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah.
Carry on. Chapter verse number 3.
Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavodhyatmam Muchyate Bhuta Bhavo Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sanjitaha Adhibhutam Charo Bhavaha Purushachadidaivatam Adhiyagyohame vatra dehe deha bhritam vara dehe deha bhritam vara antakale cha mameva smaranam muktva kalevaram yah prayati sa madbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah yam yam vapi smaran bhavam yadyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitah Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpitamano buddhir mame vaishyasya samshayah. Okay, actually in mine it shows there are both possibilities, samshayah and or samshayah.
Carry on.
Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan kavim puranam anushasitaram
Anoraniyam anusmaretyah
Anoraniyam samanusmaredyah
Aniyansam Kavim Puranam Manushasitaram Anoraniyam Manusmaretyah
Sarvasya dhataram chintya rupam
Sarvasya dhataram
Amachintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah
tamasah
Parastat
parastat
Prayana Kale
kale
Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto
tyayukto
Yoga Balena
balena
Chaiva
chaiva
Bhruvor Madhye
pranamaveshya
Pranamaveshya
samyak
Pranamaveshya Samyak Satam
satam
Param
param purusham.
Purusham Upaiti Divyam Purusham Upaiti Divyam.
So here he says Kaving Kaving Puranam. So the ancient people who knew. Kavi here means people who have the imagination, people not necessarily only poets, but people, the Rishis are all Kavis. So ancient Rishis. Anushasitaram, controller. Anor Aniyan, some smaller than the smallest atom. Smaller than the smallest atom. This is directly taken from the Upanishads. Anusmaret, always remembering. Yahas, who, Sarvasya, of everything. Dhataram, support. Dhri, the word is to support. Dhataram. Achintya Rupam. Achintya, that which cannot be imagined. It cannot be spoken of. Anirvachaniya. Achintya Rupam. Aditya Varnam. Yet, while I cannot speak of it, it is so effulgent that it is like the sun. Now, can you tell me whether the sun is round or not? Okay, we know it is round because we are postulating that it is round. My pratyaksha pramana does not tell me it is round because I cannot even look at it. I cannot see it. If I try to see it with my naked eyes, I will go blind. So my apta pramana, my shastra pramana is telling me that it is supposed to be round. But my pratyaksha pramana does not. Similarly, here also, it is achintya rupam, yet it has a form which I cannot describe. Aditya varnam tamasa parastat. Tamasa parastat, beyond all darkness, removal of all darkness, darkness of tamasa, darkness of all the ignorance. Prayana kale, the time of death, prayana kale, at the time of going, manasachalena. Achala is mountain, that which does not move. Mountain, achala. Here, similarly, steady like the mountain doesn't move. So, manasa, the mind, manas, the emotions. Here, manas here means both the antakarana, keeping all of that. Manasa, achalena, bhaktya yukto, bhakti. We have seen already that a certain degree of understanding of bhakti here is that it is about keeping the mind one pointedly concentrated on something. It is not about saying, oh, I am dying, let me bring, अरे मेरा वो मंजीरा किधर है, मेरा ढोलक किधर है, मुझे भक्ति करना है, मेरा मरने का टाइम आ गया. No, that is not bhakti. Right? Bhakti is keeping the mind incessantly flowing towards that particular one thing. Bhaktya yuktaha, united, yoga balena, through the power of that yoga, through the power of that unity. Cha eva bhruvor madhye, keeping the concentration in the middle of the eyebrows. Now, if you go back to chapter 6, where he said nasikagre, it cannot be nasikagre, cannot be the tip of the nose. They clearly corresponding proof. Nasikagre means the the point of the Agya Chakra, point of the third eye. Bhruvor madhye pranam, the life force in us, pranam, not the breath, not the air, life force, aveshya, fixing, samyak, completely, saha, that person, parama purusham, upaiti divyam, he attains, upaiti, he attains the parama purusham. So he has given us the formula, and he has at the same time he has also started describing that particular thing that which we are trying to look for. Chapter verse number 11. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti, Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti, Vishanti yadyattayo vitaragaha, Vishanti yadtayo vitaragaha, Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti, Vishanti yadyatayo vitaragaha, Yad icchanto brahmacharyam charanti, Yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe, yaddichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe, yadaksharam vedavido vadanti, vishanti yadyattayo vitaragaha, yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe, yat, that, aksharam. Akshara means that which removes, that which decays, that which decays. So, what a razor in Sanskrit is called kshura. Kshura, right? From that, the Bengali word khur. So, the razor which is used. Why is it called kshura? Because it does kshaya. Because it removes kshaya. So therefore, similarly here, it says akshara, that which cannot be removed, that which cannot perish, that which cannot die, which does not reduce, जिसके अंदर में क्षय नहीं है. यद यक अक्षरम वेद विदः, वेद विदो means plural. Veda vid means he who knows the Veda. Veda vid. Vadanti describes in glowing terms. It describes by extolling, describes by singing. Vishanti, enter. Vishanti, entering. Yat, which. Yata yaha. Yata yaha. Yati. We have seen the word yati. Yati means he who is a meditator, he who is a yogi, he who is trying to achieve oneness. Yata yaha means those who are the yatis, plural. Yata yaha. Yadyatayoho vita ragaha. Vita ragaha. Ragaha means, anybody remembers the meaning of the word raga?
आसक्ति होगी.
Attraction.
Attachment. Right. Asakti, attachment. So vita ragaha, with no attachment. No attachment to what? No attachment to what?
वो चीज हमारे सामने है लेकिन उसको शून्य मान के चलना और उसके प्रति
किस
हमारी
ये मर रहा है, ये
हाँ,
मर रहा है. सबसे बड़ा अटैचमेंट उस समय कहाँ है?
Desire.
जीवन से.
Attachment to desire.
Body से.
Attachment to this body.
body, yes.
Body. Okay.
Right? So when he says, I want to put my full life force here and I want to be concentrating on only on that, vitaragaha, knowing that this is going to die anyway. Right? Because we keep attachment, that is why that passing is so painful. So vishanti yad yatayoha vitaragaha. Ragaha. Right? All the attachments. Yad icchantaha, desiring. Icchantaha, desiring. Brahmacharyam means being in acharan of Brahman. Literal translation has been put in many books as celibacy. No, brahmacharya is not celibacy. I have said that possibly 100 times. So brahmacharya means that where you are doing charan, you are doing acharan according to Brahman. Satyam vada, dharmam chara, etc., etc. All of those instructions that are given in Taittiriya Upanishad. In the first Valli, Siksha Valli, it is basically a convocation speech. If you look at it, if you read Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find that the first chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad is basically a convocation speech. It is the speech of the teacher who is giving a speech to the students who are moving out. It's a whole series of instructions. These are the things that you should do. These are the things you should not do. Satyam vada dharmam chara, he says. He says, Atiti devo bhava. Think of the Atiti as a deva. He says, Swadhyaya pravachanecha. Keep studying, keep teaching. All these are whole sets of instructions. When you live according to that, you are a brahmachari. Very clear, right? Swami Shivananda Saraswati has also given that very beautiful in his book. I've told you about that. Brahmacharyam charanti. He moves around in practices. Tatte, that to you, padam, goal, sangrahena, in very brief, in a brief way, pravakshe, I shall explain. I shall explain this practice by which you will be able to attain. That is what he says over here. So I shall explain the path to you briefly, the path to that particular goal. See, if you look at the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, over there also, the Yajnavalkya talks to Gargi, and he says, Etava aksharasya prashasane Gargi, Suryas chandramaso vidhritau tishantaha. So he says that this, under the mighty control of this imperishable aksharaha, even the moon and the sun are held onto their course. So the whole cosmos is held together by a spirit of consciousness, not the physical part of it. The physical part of it has its own laws, by the spirit of consciousness. So here he says, Sangrahena, he says, this path is very difficult and it is not suitable for everyone. That is why I'm going to explain it in brief to you. And therefore he says this Mishra, yoga, bhakti, all of that. So therefore I will explain it in brief, but then later on I will break it up and give it to you in parts. So very clearly, if you go back to certain interpretations, it says, this is the verse which says you have to become a brahmachari, which means you have to start wearing white clothes, live away from your family, go back into the Himalayas and stay over there, only then you will get moksha. But very clearly, Gurudev's interpretation does not talk about that. So we have to understand it from the brahmacharya, from the literal meaning of the word, rather than looking at the traditional meaning of the word. Verse number 12. Raghuji, we have moved forward.
Sarvadvarani.
No. I was just pointing to you, saying that we have moved forward.
Okay.
Verse number 11.
Thank you, sir.
Sarvadvarani samyamya. Sarvadvarani samyamya. Manoridhi niruddhya cha. Manoridhi niruddhya cha. Sarvadvarani samyamya. Manoridhi niruddhya cha. Murdhan dhayatatmana prana. Murdhan dhayatmana prana masthita yoga dharanam. Murdhyanadhyatma tat murdhyan adhyatmana pranam. Murdhyanadhyatmana pranam. It's better when I close my eyes. Murdhyanadhyatmana pranam. Asthita yoga dharanam. Asthito yoga dharanam. Sarvadvarani samyamya. Manoridhi niruddhya cha. Murdhyadhyatmana pranam. Asthito yoga dharanam. Sarvadvarani. Dwara means all the doors. Samyamya, having closed, restrained. Samyamya means to restrain, to close, right? If you notice, if you go to the Isha Yoga method, they have a program called Samyama, right? It's basically an apabhramsha of the word Samyamya. Samyamya means to control, to be able to restrain. So the whole process of Samyamya means to be controlling, to be restraining. Controlling what? Mana. By controlling the mana, Ridhi in the heart region, Niruddhya cha. Now, controlling and restraining the manas in the heart. Now, this is a very important point that you have to note. Sri Ramana Maharshi very clearly in his writings, in his speeches, whenever he's talked about, has differentiated between the Anahata Chakra and the spiritual heart. They are two different. So even when he has described about the Kundalini Yoga and he has talked about it, he says that when the life force rises, goes to the Sahasrara, that is not the end. It has to come back and rest in the spiritual heart. Right? If it remains in the Sahasrara, then you are gone. Which is what Sri Thakur used to say, that the body will last for 21 days after the body, the Sahasrara has been touched. But if you are able to bring it down and rest it in the spiritual heart, then you are in what is called Sahaja Samadhi. Sahaja Samadhi. Moving around, you are still in Samadhi. You appear to be Swapan, Shwasan, Ashnan. We have seen that in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? So Raman Maharshi would wake up with his stick, he would be tottering, he would go to the toilet, he would come back, he would eat food, he would lie down, he would appear to be sleeping, he would take a bath. All of that was happening. But his mind had got switched off, right? Manas Buddhi had all been switched off. So that, he says, Ridhi Sthitaha. So keeping therefore having no vikara, no change in the thought patterns that are happening, which is in stillness. There is no vritti. There is no vritti. So what does Patanjali say about yoga? Yoga का definition पतंजलि में अभी हम लोगों ने किया था थोड़ी देर पहले.
चित्त निरोध.
चित्त वृत्ति निरोधः. चित्त वृत्ति निरोधः. Vritti means waves. Chitta means antakarana. Manas, buddhi, ahamkar. Whenever there are waves in that, we are actually creating this false self in us. What is the mind? We talked about that yesterday, I think in our session, we were talking about the fact that the brain is not the mind. What is the mind? Gurudev has a beautiful explanation. He says, mind is nothing but an incessant flow of thoughts. It's an incessant flow of thoughts. When you stop the thoughts, the mind automatically goes. Now, you cannot force your mind to stop the thoughts. Yes, please.
But aren't the thoughts in the intellect?
So when I say mind, I am talking of the combination of manas buddhi. See, the English word mind has both manas and buddhi. So thoughts are in the intellect. Yes, thoughts are always in the intellect. Emotions in the manas. So here, which is why understanding that we are talking of vrittis, the vrittis can happen anywhere, and hence Patanjali also says yoga chitta vritti nirodha, not manas vritti nirodha, not buddhi vritti nirodha. He says chitta vritti. Chitta is the inclusion of all three of the antakarana, manas, buddhi, ahamkar. So he says sarva dwarani samyamya mana ridhi niruddhya cha. Right? Sarva dwarani. What are the doors? What doors do I need to close?
Senses.
No. Physically, there are doors to be closed.
Mana buddhi.
Five indriyas.
We have 9 doors in our body. We have 9.
कर्मेंद्रिय.
We have 9 doors in our body. हमारा शरीर को नवद्वारपुरी बोलते हैं. इस शरीर को नवद्वारपुरी. नवद्वारपुरी.
5 karmendriyas and gyanendriyas.
So, no. 2 ears, 2
2
nose,
ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth.
7 here.
Yeah.
7 here, 2 at the bottom. Front and back. नवद्वारपुरी. इसके ऊपर एक द्वार है. There is one more द्वार. Right? मूर्धन्य द्वार. ये जो बच्चों का जॉइंट नहीं होता है ना, when the newborn child is there, ये इधर का जो इसको हम लोग क्या बोलते हैं, ब्रह्मरंध्र, right? And it is said that yogis leave their body from the brahmarandhra. So their eyes are closed, their nostrils get closed, the ears get closed, the mouth is closed, the anus and the urinary organ is closed, and the life force exits from the brahmarandhra, which is what he is describing here. He is saying murdhnya adhaya atmanaha, establishing that self in the murdhnya, in the sahasrara, the life breath, by yogic concentration. So at the time of death, what is he saying? Now, most of us will die physically, our bodies will die, and we will not even know that we are dying. But if we have lived a life of brahmacharya, then it is said that you will see death approaching. Right? You will see death approaching in the sense, you know that in the next few hours, in the next few days, that is going to happen. Why does that happen? Because such a person, the yogi, is living in the perpetual reality of the fact that the body is kshara. The body is going to die. He has no doubts about it. And therefore, he lives in a mind. So, since we do not know when we are going to physically die, when this body is going to die, so what should we do? He said, okay, keep all the 9 dwaras closed, which means keep your indriyas under restraint. What do you do therefore? Keep your mind in your spiritual heart, which means what? Oh, become still. Establish yourself in the murdhnya, which means be in the sahasrara, be in union with Shiva. Continuously. That is the state that we want to achieve, but we cannot achieve it just like that, right? So therefore, that whole practice of going there slowly, step by step. So he says, Sarvadvarani samyamya manoridi nirudhya mudhyadhyatmanas pranam asthito yoga dharanam. Verse number 13. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Vyaharan mamanusmaran. Vyaharan mamanusmaran. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Vyaharan mamanusmaran. Yaprayati tyajan deham. Yaprayati tyajan deham. Sayati paramam gatim. Sayati paramam gatim. Yaprayati tyajam deham. Sayati paramam gatim. Om ityekaksharam brahma. Vyaharan mamanusmaran. Yaprayati tyajan deham. Sayati paramam gatim. Paramam gatim. Om, we all understand what is Om. Om here he says is the iti, thus eka aksharam, one syllabled, Brahman. Om is the representation of that one syllabled Brahman. See, if you remember the BMI chart of Gurudev, then he always puts Om at the top, and then under that there is the Vasanas, then under that there is the BMI and OPFT and etc. etc. Om represents that unformed or rather undescribable Brahman. Vyaharan, by chanting, Mam, me, Anusmaran, remembering me. Yah, who, Prayati, departs, Prayanakale, point of leaving. Here it says Prayati, departs, Tyajam, quitting, Deham, the body, Saha, he yati, the person who wants to attain, the yogi, Paramam gatim, the supreme goal. So what are we supposed to do? So when we are departing from the body, we are supposed to be remembering the Lord in the form of Omkara, and we are supposed to keep doing Omkara, and the body and we leave the body consciously, and therefore you will attain the supreme self. You will attain the supreme self, he says. So now, yes.
So this is, I mean, this again brings up an aspect of chapter 8 that kind of I find a little jarring, because somebody who's not saying Om but has all the other attributes mentioned, will he not attain the Parabrahman? He will. I feel he will. Then what is, maybe I just feel that, okay, because it's jarring me, it's telling me that maybe Om here, is it the sound Om, or is it actually referring to some characteristic of Om that he should be thinking about? This is because it cannot be the sound Om, because somebody may not say the sound Om.
So when you firstly, very recently, you just got to know that in some school, the school morning assembly as a system of all the children standing and chanting Om for 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever. And recently, apparently, some people from the school went to court and got that stopped by an injunction order, saying that there is a conversion attempt going on. So you very rightly said, some people may not want to chant Om. Perfectly all right, right? Om, the moment you put a sound to it, when you put a sound to it, it has already been diluted. You have already put in a perception to it. So it cannot be the sound. So what is Om? Om is a representation. Remember, everything that we are looking at is a representation. What is it representing? It is very clearly saying that in the next word itself, Akshara Brahman. Om iti ekakshara Brahman. It is the simplest form or the most undiluted form of what I can approach. It is the asymptote that I can go to, because Om has no meaning. Om has been ascribed meaning by many people. A is equal to Brahma, U is equal to Vishnu, Ma is equal to Shiva, I is equal to Sattva, U is equal to Rajas, Ma is equal to Tamas. All that is ascribed meaning. No one has given that meaning. Nobody knows the meaning. So that undefinable being an approximation of the even more undefinable Brahman, here he is using Om as, and Gurudev's explanation very clearly says that Om does not mean sit down and chant Om. Then why not chant Hare Krishna? Why not chant Jai Shri Ram? Chant Oh my Lord, or say Hail Mary. Right? All of that should have the same effect. Yes, they will. They will. Right? Here the idea is what you will concentrate on, that we saw in chapter 7. What you will concentrate on, that is what you will become. And hence, he says, therefore, at the time of death, please think of me, the undescribable. In the nearest possible way of describing me, of Om, and using that, come to me. Come, I am welcoming you. I am here, sitting here, waiting for you. You will attain me. So Om is not the so-called writing. That's even further dilution. Sound at least was only at sound level. Then you put ऐसे Om ऐसे लिखा जाता है. You go to Chinmaya Mission. Chinmaya Mission has a very new form of Om designed by Gurudev. The Omkar in the Chinmaya Mission has a very different way of writing it. You go to Tamil Nadu, they write it in a very different way. The moment you write it, you further diluted it. So the whole process is not about the sound, the physical form of Omkar. It is about what it is representing. Verse number 14. Ananyacheta satatam. Ananyacheta satatam. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Ananyacheta satatam. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Nityayuktasya yoginaha. Nityayuktasya yoginaha. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Nityayuktasya yoginaha. Ananyachetah satatam. Yo mam smarati nityashaha. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Nityayuktasya yoginaha. Ananya. Without any deviation. Chetaha, mind, manas buddhi, both. Ananya, without deviation. Satatam, always. Yaha, who, mam, me, smarati, remembers. Smaran is remembrance. Smara is another name for the god of love. Kamadev ka ek naam hai Smara. Right? Why is love compared with or given the name of memory? Yes, Gaudi. You're on mute. Yeah.
I can just try. What you remember that you love. So that is desire.
See, when he says, very good, thank you. Because in earlier we have seen in chapter 6, he has said that you should become nirashi and nishparigraha. Nishparigraha. Nishparigraha means don't hold on. And nirashi, don't have any expectation of the future. What do you hold on to? You hold on to memories. What are the memories? That with which you have strong attachment, positive or negative. Both are effect of love. Both are effect of kama, kamadev, desire. So what we are holding together, smara. So here we use the word smaran. Smaran means that which we are remembering. Now what are you asking me to be remember? You are asking me to remember that which you are going to be attached to. There. So if you still have to be attached, then be attached to me. Be attached to me. To such a person, tasyaham, tasya, to him, such a person, I am sulabhaha. I am very easily attainable. Now, what is, yes, he is easily attainable. For us to become that where the mind is incessantly, continuously, all the time flowing only towards him is what is difficult. The moment that happens, the doors open. The moment that happens, Jaya and Vijay will open the doors and Vaikuntha is open to us. So, here he says, Sulabhaha. Nitya yuktasya yoginaha. For those yogis who are constantly thinking about me, so for with their exclusive, here to use the word bhakti, to use the word devotion in the correct sense, I am easily attainable. So, in the earlier verse, we have seen that Krishna has explained the process of meditation as a part of the Ashtanga Yoga itself, right? Without any attributes. Now, sometimes that is not possible. Sometimes that is not possible. Om iti ekakshara brahma. Sometimes that is not possible. So, therefore, you take on some personal forms. You take on some personal forms. And then you therefore use that form to be able to think of him. See, in earlier verses, later verses also, he has used these words. Ananyas chintayanto mam, he says in chapter 9. Then in another verse where in chapter 18, he will say, Tameva sharanam gacha. He will say that, he will say always, surrender to me, etc., etc. Right? Mamekam sharanam braja. Right? He says, come, surrender unto me. These are all because of our limitations. So what the divine does here is that it allows us to form a particular form in our own mind. Remember that mind, it's not that mind, that form is a fiction of your imagination. It is a fiction of your attachment. You have got attached to the Murlidhar. I have got attached to the Dashabhuja. Right? All of these are attachments to, does this mean, no, Dashabhuja is a fiction of my imagination? No. Ishvara is not a fiction of my imagination, and we will discuss this on Monday. I have given that as homework also to you. So think of that, and therefore he's saying that, okay, if you cannot think of Om, think of me in a particular form. At least that will be better than thinking of the Rasgulla that you are continuously thinking about. So at least there is a progress. Yes, Partuda.
See, I'm seeing one thing right from verse 5 in chapter 8. Lord Krishna is talking about at the time of death. Now, you explained earlier that you cannot think something at the time of death unless you would think of him always. Now, coming to 14, he is telling you do it all the time. Now, is there a particular purpose in this? Because I have seen many people while dying. For example, my grandfather, my father, whom I have seen dying slowly in old age. See, it is a little easier to think of Lord Krishna at that time. Because, everything is over. Now body is going. I don't think desires place over. Actually, today, for us to think of him in the midst of all this is actually a big challenge. But does he have any particular purpose? Why is he laboring on, think of me at the time of death, think of me at the time of death? Verse after
So-
verse after verse.
So two things. Number one, first is we have to understand that the Bhagavad Gita has been written for us. It has not been written for the Rishi who has gone through the desires and has moved away from the material world and is now in an active mental world where he is creating a world for himself of Manan, Shravanam, Mananan, Nidhyasan. It is meant for you and me who are all Arjunas, right? Your name itself is Arjuna. So, but do you have a full name? Is it Partho Sharati or is it Partho?
Actually, PS stands for Parthasarathi, but in Bengal, everybody will shorten it
Shortens
as
the name.
Partha, but two different personalities totally.
Yeah. One is the charioteer, the other is the person who is the other is the person who is listening. So anyway, so now if one is that we are all the Parthas, right? We are all the Arjunas who are sitting over there in the middle of the two armies. And we are all the duality, whether it is our mental duality or our physical duality that we are caught into. So one of that reason is that he is explaining this here from perspective of something that you know is a reality that you cannot avoid. Hence, he brings up the tough topic of death. Another thing you have to remember, what is Arjuna facing? Arjuna is facing devastation, either caused by him or going to be caused on to him. He is facing devastation. That devastation is something that is bound to happen, is something that now Krishna talks about very clearly. Whether you like it or not, this devastation that you are thinking about, of the decimation of this entire bunch of Kauravas standing over there by your Brahmastra, or their Brahmastra killing all the Pandavas, is going to happen whether you like it or not. Lastly, Gurudev does not explain this death as the physical bodily death. He very clearly talks about saying, when the ego dies is the death that we are talking about. It is the death of the ego. So do not interpret this only in the limited context. It is there. That context is also there. But do not interpret it in that limited context of कि ये तो सिर्फ मेरे शरीर के मृत्यु के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. Because even the earlier ones, when he's saying that sarvadvarani samyamya, it is a concept, the context is fine at the time of death. Hold back tighten your anus, close your eyes, and so on and so forth. That's one part of it. That is the physical part of the yoga. But in Advaita, what will we do? We are talking of saying, okay, so when I have to close all my eyes, you sit down in a particular pose with your Ardha Siddhasan, which blocks your Muladhara Chakra, so that you do not have any feeling of going to the toilet. You do not have to go for urination, and you close your eyes and you withdraw all your senses inward. So you are sitting in Pratyahara. That is Sarva Dwarani Samyamya. That itself is Sarvadvarani Samyamya. So it is not only the physical death. Physical death is being talked about, but it is not only the physical death. That is the important aspect.
So
Yes,
what
please.
you are saying is that by all means, don't defer it to your physical death. Please do it now. One is that you don't know when you will die. That is one
Correct.
One
Correct.
point. Other is it is not only physical death, it is also death of your ego, and that can happen any moment.
And
If are
therefore
on the
you
right
start.
path.
Correct. Yes, Raghuji.
So I have a slightly different take on this. First thing is I look upon birth and death. See the attachment of the probably the Karana Swarupa to the Sukshma and what's the physical body?
Stula Sharira.
Stula Swarupa. It happens at the time of birth, because when that conception happens, at that moment, maybe not at the conception, maybe a little later, whatever, but that the ego gets formed at that time. Likewise, at the time of death, that separation happens. This body, the physical body is the attachment to that physical body is gone at the time of death. So these are, I would say, rifts in the space-time continuum, to talk about it in a scientific way. Rifts. So these are kind of moments of dramatic change. Okay, so he talks about the death event as an opportunity to exploit that rift to go directly. However, as he comes along, I think it was either in the where is that gone? In the 12th, he's already talking not so much about the death itself as literally living and controlling all your senses and essentially being completely merged with the Supreme Being. I have a feeling he's kind of hinting that you can die before you die. You don't have to have a physical body death to in order to attain this state. You can
So
be
that is the
immersed in the state.
which is what we talk about when we talk about the concept of Jivan Mukta.
Jivan Mukta.
So that is what we talk about when we say we have talked about the Jivan Mukta. So last shloka for the day today. Mamupetya punarjanma, mamupetya punarjanma, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, mamupetya punarjanma, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, napnuvanti mahatmanah, napnuvanti mahatmanah, samsiddhim paramam gataah, samsiddhim paramam gataah, napnuvanti mahatmanah, samsiddhim paramagataah, mamupetya punarjanma, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, napnuvanti mahatmanah, samsiddhim paramam gataah. This world is a dukkhalaya. Very beautiful. It is a place of sorrow. So he says that mam, having, upetya, having attained, punaha, again, janma, birth, dukkhalayam, in this place of misery, ashashvatam, which is also temporary, na, ever, apnuvanti attains, mahatmanaha, the great souls, samsiddhim, samyak rupena, controlled perfection, paramam, highest, gataha, having achieved. So having achieved that particular, so again he says, to address a particular doubt, and taking from the point of view of saying that we have died before we have died, as very beautifully put by Raghuji. So we say that our ego has reached that point of death. But this world is continuously in a cycle. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, etc., etc. So that fear, is it that I am going to come back? He very clearly addresses that. He says, whether you have attained it at the time of death, or whether you have attained it while you were physically living, once you have attained it, you are no longer a part of this dukkhalaya. Oh, then what about the cancer that Sri Ramana Maharshi suffered? Ramana Maharshi did not suffer cancer. His body did. Sri Thakur did not suffer cancer. His body did. Swami Rama of the Himalayas did not suffer cancer. His body did. That is the state that they attain. That is the state in which they live. So he says, he's no longer attached or affected by the dukkhalaya. Dukkhalaya से उसे कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता. उस दुखालय के अंदर में वो है ही नहीं. दुखालय के अंदर में शरीर है, मनस है, बुद्धि है, चित्त है, अहंकार है. मैं नहीं हूं. मैं वहां है हूं ही नहीं, तो दुखालय मेरे को कैसे अफेक्ट करेगा? So he says, you are not affected by that dukkhalaya. You do not come back to it. In both senses, you can take it. Having attained me, having become Brahman. Because here this is again go back to that same principle. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Once you have become Brahman, how can you become non-Brahman again? then you choose to play. फिर तो खेलना है तो खेलेंगे, फिर गेम के जैसे खेलेंगे. So Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to describe this game. We used to play this game when we were young. It is the game of चोर पुलिस. तो एक चोर होता है और अदर एक पुलिस होता है, और बाकी हम लोग सब चोर होते हैं, और चोर लोग छुप के इधर उधर छुपे रहते हैं. And the policeman is supposed to find them out. And then there is a den, right? Den in Bengali we used to call it budi. And you go running around, and while the police is looking for the chore under the staircase of building number 12, you were hiding in building number 24. You creep out and you touch the den. And once you have touched the den, the police can't touch you. Now what do? You play around. You go around teasing the policeman. You keep shouting, "Hey, wo udhar aa raha hai, chup ja, jaldi chup ja," right? Keeping on disturbing him. And he can't do anything to you. Sri Ramakrishna Thakur used to use this, Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to use this as an example. He says, after that, tum khelo na life mein. You have touched the den. Then you play. Jump around. Have fun. Because whatever happens is fun. Such a beautiful, I think the storyteller of this entire century, of this age, is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Nobody like him. So, from every day-to-day incident, how he picked up stories, and that itself is a lesson for us as to whether we look around and see, when we see things, do we learn from them? So, homework. Look for the story of Sri Dhrtarashtra Maharaj, the story of Dhrtarashtra, and do manan on that, and let us discuss what we learned from that story for the next session. Chaliye, can we end? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.